Hi, everybody. It's Craig. Welcome to Cutting the Crap with Shap. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll subscribe, like, share it out. I'm here with my old friend, Coach K. I have known Mike for over 20 years, and he is going to knock your socks off. He is an expert in wellness. And to give you a little backstory before I have Mike introduce himself, so I have been involved in the fitness field for, 45 years, been training, and there are very few people who I would consult with when it comes to fitness. But I'll tell you a quick memory that I have before Mike goes. So about 20 years ago, Mike and I were coaching football together. I said Mike is an expert in strength training and fitness, and he was demoing how to do like a clean and a snatch with a broomstick. And I was like, geez, man, that's a good freaking idea. And I always remember that because nobody was doing it like that back then. And it really struck me as something like this guy really knows his stuff. Mike is going to share so much. He's got a great story. You're going to learn so many things. We're going to have a great conversation. And again, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing. I'd love to have you on the podcast. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me on, Craig. It's really an honor that you would say those things and also reach out to have me on the podcast. So my name is Mike Capusta. I'm a retired teacher and coach, current husband, homeschool teacher, and various other things. And so, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And whatever you want to talk about, man, fair game.
I love it. I love that intro. So one of the things that I think is really important that you are a health nut. Is that correct?
Something like that, yeah.
So one of the things you said is you want to kind of like, when I was reading what you wanted to talk about, you talked about like you want people to take away having a healthier life.
Mm-hmm.
What's that mean?
So I think there's like one sentence, to be honest with you, that I've like at this point now. So I'm 40 and I've gone through so much training, strength training, diet, just all of the above. I've been fortunate to be around really great people and learned a lot and exposed to many things and sort of experimented on myself over the course of decades. And I've distilled everything down. Now, I can't claim this as mine, so this is definitely influenced by others. Everything um, really that I'm going to say today is of course influenced by others, and then kind of maybe gleaned from my own experiences. But definitely need to give credit to where it's due. Yeah, so someone who's really influenced me from, I would say, the last 5 years with some really challenging circumstances in my life, is by the name of Tommy John. So he had a dad who was a really good pitcher. But Tommy John III, a former strength coach, chiropractor, and just awesome coach, kind of like flipped things and is now really influential on me because his journey sort of reflects or is reflective of a lot of what I've been through. So he says, and I truly believe this and live this, and I would love if one person took this to heart and really digested it, that would be a victory. Your life is your medicine. That's it. That's it. It ain't training for 2 hours, 3 days a week, and that's when you train and that's when you get healthy. But the rest of the time you're in a 9 to 5 that you don't like, or you have toxic relationships that you haven't dealt with, or you don't play by the rules and you eat like crap, or you drink alcohol to excess or something like that. It's as simple as, listen, we're training to live our best life. So we're training all the time. And what is training? Is medicine, right? It's not a pill that you take. It's a real life action that you are engaging in to strengthen your body and your mind and your spirit. That is training. That is your life being your medicine. So it should be all the time. It shouldn't be sequestered to 2 hours, 3 times per week, or whatever it is that you're doing, right? It's from the moment you get up to the moment you go to sleep. What are your choices? What are you doing? To me, it's all become training.
I love that, man. I love that because the stuff that you're, first of all, you got anybody hearing, you got to love that message because so many times the health industry or wellness industry, we talk about what food to eat, how much rest you should get, how much training you should do, your attitude. And I will tell you personally, and I believe all of that stuff matters.
Sure.
I believe it's a puzzle piece, but it's not about one thing. I always joke about and say, like, the person who is going to the gym training hard, but then having, a Big Mac and a Coke, like, yes, the training is good and I'm glad you're training, but your food sucks. So so you got to be able to kind of like
Yeah.
mesh it together. And that's really hard in our society right now because it's easy not to, Like there's so much information coming out all the
Mhm.
time. And it's hard for people to kind of like you talk about as it's your life, right?
Yep.
Okay, it's mine too. Been doing it my whole life. So for us, it's I don't want to say easy, but it's what we do.
Hmm.
It's our habits.
Absolutely.
So how would you say to somebody, how do you develop those habits? How do you go from one area to the next and make it more of a life thing instead of thinking of it as so segmented?
How do you get that message to somebody else?
No, how did they do it?
How did I do it?
No, how did they do it? Well, how did
Oh,
you do it? Either way.
so I find that the circumstances in my life they haven't been forced, but they've been guided in a way, right? So here's an example. Um, so I was a football player. It was my life. Completely about by far and away the number one priority in my life was football, training for football, practicing for football, playing football. That's it. And so really hard, was somewhat successful, and got to my senior year. Um, second year starting, really good team, everything's going great, and I break my leg. Broke my leg in the fourth game of my senior year, so that's it. No more football. Well, when I was playing football, I was the day I broke my leg, I was weighed in at 238 in the weight room before the game, because before games we lifted. And I'm 6'1", carrying a lot of weight on my frame. Beat my body into oblivion. Right, I went as hard as possible all the time. To be honest with you, from a very young age, I was
Mhm.
just that kid. For some reason, I had that intensity and that drive. And it was like the moment I broke my leg, like a veil was lifted, or I stepped into a new chapter. And so as it comes to training, now it's like, okay, so all I wanted to do was, eat, take protein and lift and run and play and trying to gain weight forever. I'm like, that happened, and then it was like, okay, football's done. This is it. I'm not going to carry 240 pounds for the rest of my life. No way. So then I started researching and training and trying different methods. So instead of Olympic and powerlifting, periodization and the whole deal, um, I started looking into other forms of training, and not just doing extra cardio and playing more basketball, but circuit training, supersetting stuff like crazy, and started getting
Mhm.
creative with it. And so the whole bunch of weight real quick and got stage strong and all of that. And then moving forward, right? So I'm in my 20s. I just finished a brief stint of a career as a college football coach, which was cool. But I always kind of knew I wanted to go back to high school and be a teacher because I really love teaching. The art classroom was one of my favorite
Yep,
things in
I
life.
remember that.
was a lot of fun as a teacher, as a student, and a nice way to be able to reach kids in a different way in the art classroom. But anyway, so I'm teaching now. This is actually really a couple years after we met. I was teaching at Norristown
I remember that.
at the time. And so I think I was like 27 or 28, maybe. And I started getting these brutal pains, like in my intestines. And, they would come and go, and they were becoming more frequent. And I'm thinking, what the heck's going on? This is weird. I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm active. Something's not right, but I don't really know what's going on. Subsequently, my brother's best friend in high school suddenly dies of colon cancer.
Wow.
He just had a baby, 30 years old. I mean, like, tragic thing. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I got to figure something out here. Something's not right. So I go to the hospital and I get all the cameras and scans and blah, blah, blah. And, they don't really tell you much except I don't have some kind of really bad thing going on. But the one nurse was like, yeah, maybe you ought to look into nutrition. And, maybe had a recommendation for a book or something. So I started reading. And I'm like, man, so there's more to nutrition than just like steak and protein powder and, seriously.
Right.
And so then I took a really deep dive into nutrition because of that. And so I learned all different theories and schools of thought on things, and basically was, experimented on myself, like really dove deep into a few things, sort of like, that was when the plant-based stuff was really hot,
Yep.
with the China study and,
Yep.
and all the offshoots from that, of course, read that book and various other ones, and sort of settled back into, a good omnivorous diet. But now all of a sudden, so it wasn't just like, okay, so I'm lifting and training because I want to, lose the weight and like be shredded, and I'm like 20 something and I'm surfing and I'm playing basketball and I just think it's cool, right? To now it's like, well, wait a second. Now it's like a health thing because I don't want to mess around and, wind up like my brother's best friend,
Yep.
God bless him, Greg Fox, missed the guy. And so now, like, how I ate was such an important part of every day, and then how I ate and how can it support what I'm doing, my training, and how can I mesh the two? Am I going to have enough energy if I'm only eating berries and salads or something, and am I going to wither away? I'm going to lose all my muscle. How is this all going to work? And I think that for people to be able to incorporate their life as their medicine, right? Training, not just doing a set of push-ups or being in the weight room or doing 20 minutes of cardio. There's more. Training's more than that. Training's everything. Training's every day. Training's everything. Every choice you make, in my opinion. You take one piece that makes sense to you, that you can incorporate into what your everyday life is like. You consistently do that. Me personally, my suggestion, what that piece should be for most people, or the easiest way for most people, probably what that first piece should be, it should just be moving. That's it. Moving. Whether, it's heavily resisted, lightly resisted, not resisted at all, although I do think resistance is important. That you need to move your body. And once you start, our bodies are meant to move all day, every day. Our joints are meant to move in their full range of motion many, many times a day. I mean, rep schemes that you wouldn't even imagine, or I wouldn't have imagined, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. That's what our bodies are meant to do. That's how they work best. And once you start moving, it's like I'm sure you know this, Craig, and other people listening, I'm sure can attest to this. It's like, it's almost like intrinsic that you start like choosing good foods.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your body all of a sudden is craving the good things instead of going and getting the Big Mac and a big soda. Like, wait a second, I would actually rather drink water and have some type of real food.
Can I chime in real quick?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to say that. Do you know the pizza analogy? You don't, do you?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, here it is, everybody. So for those of you who don't hear it and know this, well, no, you won't know unless you heard me say it already, because it's something I came up with when I was teaching. Okay, Mike, here you go. So you order a pizza, okay? Pizza's got 4 slices. Pizza delivery person comes to your house. Before you pay, you look at the pizza. You open the box up and there's a piece of pizza missing. Would you buy it for full price?
Absolutely not.
Of course not. So there's a piece missing. So the 4 slices of pizza are the following in my line of thinking. And this is not in any order of importance. It's just how I think about it. Number 1, how much movement you're getting.
Yep.
Just like you said, how much are you moving? Number 2, how much rest are you getting?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sleeping and resting enough? Number 3, how much food are you eating and what kind of food are you eating?
Mm-hmm.
And number 4, what is your attitude? What kind of attitude do you have? And if any one of those slices is missing, something is off. Now, it's not like one is all more important than the other, but it's kind of like this. If you are training well, you're moving,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting enough rest, your attitude's pretty positive, but you're eating like crap, something's going to suffer.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're eating well and you're resting well and your attitude's good, but you're not moving, something's going to suffer. So it's about putting them all together. And I love that you started with movement. But we already know that the society in America is freaking lazy, like nobody's business. Well, not everybody. I take that back. Not everybody, but in our country, there is a tendency to sit a lot and not move a lot. It's nobody's fault. It's just that's how it actually is. So I love that you brought up movement. I think that's critical.
Couple of things here, really quick.
Yeah, okay. Go on, please.
These are Tommy John derived as well. It's crazy how this happens, but 1, relating to attitude, and I think with attitude, I might mesh in with attitude, just your emotional state and strength, which of course will heavily influence your attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So he says this, and I wholeheartedly believe this, and this took me a long time to get here, but I think it's important. A happy donut is better than a sad salad. Because 1, if you have the other 3 slices of the pizza going, our bodies are like unfathomable, just unbelievable. Like with how they work, how they heal, how they use materials, that if you got those 3 slices and you really would enjoy that donut, and maybe you're going to sit with a friend and a donut and a coffee and have a great conversation, guess what? I don't think that's unhealthy. Now, if you're eating, glazed donuts, jelly donuts like every day, that's a different story.
Hey.
Right? However, when the way that we even approach the way that we're eating is important, and where our emotions are with that. So anyway, the happy donut sad salad thing is really important to me. It's sort of let me say, okay, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. It'll never be perfect. And we think, we can read all these books and get inundated with this information, right? I mean, with social media and everything, it's crazy. Like if you can go down rabbit holes on anything, but particularly with health and
food,
I mean, it's ridiculous, crazy.
Yeah.
You scroll through your news feed and you'll see 10 different ads and posts about, 5 of them say bananas are the best thing in the world, and 5 of them say if you eat bananas, you're going to die tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's
It
too much.
is. It
And at
is.
the end of the day, no one knows what's perfect because what's perfect for me is different than what's perfect for you. And what's perfect for me today is different what's perfect for me tomorrow and what it was yesterday. Right? And yeah, truthfully, there is no perfect.
No.
Right? We do our best. We play by the rules, right? Because there are rules. You can't eat jelly donuts all day, every day, right? However, if we're going to be so hung up on trying to make every perfect choice and eat the perfect balance of this and that and the calories and the nutrients and blah, blah, I don't look at any of that stuff anymore, Craig.
Neither do I.
I go off feel,
Yep.
completely 100% feel. What am I feeling good about eating? What am I feeling good about doing today? What am I feeling? That's it. First, if we get in tune, what the signals that we're getting from our body are telling us exactly what we should be doing. And deep down, we know it when we don't. You do.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'd say to that is I love the happy donut sad salad. I love that. I love that. I have to remember it. I'm going to steal that. I like it. The only thing I'd say to it is, did you see my video I put out there about the donut addiction?
I saw like the trailer for it. I didn't like watch the whole thing. Yeah,
So
what was that? Well, it's funny because I actually thought for a second about that quote, and then like,
I said, this is what I said. I said, yo, if you got a donut addiction, just stop. Nobody's got a donut addiction. There's no
oh
such
yeah,
thing as a
yep,
there's no such thing as a donut addiction. Like, learn how to eat healthy. But I think that's critical because what you said is really, really important. First of all, nobody gets heavy eating a donut. Nobody. And nobody gets healthy eating an apple.
Mhm.
It doesn't work like that. You don't wake up one morning and say, man, I just had that Honeycrisp apple. God, I feel great. It doesn't work like that. It's
Mhm.
about developing those habits.
Yes.
So one of the things I would push back a little bit is this. I think for you and I, do you ever have a donut?
It's been a while.
Yeah, but you're talking about the happy donut and sad salad, but you don't eat donuts,
Well, I'll have an old fashioned with a coffee if I'm sitting down with a friend.
right? But the thing is, Mike, is that you and I are able to have a donut with a friend, but not have them every day.
Hmm.
If you don't have those habits instilled in you, the sugar craving that comes from your tongue and your senses from the donut makes you want to have another donut.
Hmm.
So your brain, when you eat broccoli, doesn't say, oh man, I got to have another broccoli. When you have that cookie or you have that donut, you have that ice cream, your brain is saying, I want more of that. So
Hmm.
while I agree with you in theory that one donut, one cookie, one bowl of ice cream is never going to be the death knell,
Hmm.
ever, ever, ever. You have to be, I don't mean you, I mean people who's ever watching, you got to be disciplined enough to be able to have the donut, but then not have another one and have some chicken breast. I mean,
Hmm.
you got to be able to balance, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, you need the other three slices in place,
Right.
and second of all, that fourth slice, like I said, you got to play by the rules. Okay, so there are rules and principles in life that we just can't break, no matter how much we would want to, with all the wishful thinking and positive attitude and manifestation and all that jazz, right? You just can't break some rules.
Yep.
And so if you're living by the rules, what does that mean for me? What are the nutritional rules for me? Eating real food. That's it. I
That's
literally
it.
I eat probably 1% of my total diet is something that's not derived from a plant or an animal,
That's it.
and like one step away, right? Like
That's it.
I got the green beans and I cooked them and I put butter on them with salt and pepper, and really that's it. And what do I try to do? I try to eat as much variety as possible and listen to what my body's craving.
But
And
you're
literally, that's it.
but that's so what I always preach: foods that have a face, foods that grow.
Yep,
If it's growing from the ground, you're not going to lose. Not going to
absolutely.
lose because the things that are growing, you don't even have to buy. You can plant them.
Hmm.
If you can plant a tomato in your backyard and you have a tomato vine, eat it. If you're planting green beans, eat them. If you're having eggs, eat them. It is very hard to get totally out of shape if you're eating things that come from the ground or have a face. It's not impossible. I mean, you can eat enough high calorie steak to gain weight if you eat enough of it. But generally speaking, that is the ticket.
Yeah, but you got to play by the rules, Craig. There's got to be movement and rest and a emotional state and attitude.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
and
so you're exactly right. Now, as an aside, the most important life activity for me is gardening.
I know you love the garden. I saw that.
Yep,
I hate gardening.
it's it's there's just something about it. So I had a really challenging circumstance, and with with a concussion in 2019, and I had many concussions in the past, thousands of subconcussive hits. Right, I mean that's just what I did. That was my job. Right, my job was to run as fast as and hard as I could and run into somebody else with my head into their head. That was my job for really like 10 years. 10 years, and it got to a level where it was really big, fast guys doing it, and so that takes a toll. But I never had any ill effects from any of that head trauma my whole entire young life. And then 2019, what am I, 30, 39? I get a concussion off like a hair trigger, like hit in the ear. It was like nothing, like something I would have brushed off with no problem. And it basically sent me on a 2-year downward spiral. And so this was like the next big event that kind of led to a quest on my part to to figure out how to live a better life, to heal, to make my life my medicine. This is when I found your life is your medicine, my brain, because in the conventional wisdom, cuts heal, bones heal, ligaments maybe heal, right? But the tissues that we think are healable, but the brain, no way.
Yep.
Brain, that's a different story. What are you going to do here? And it just didn't add up to me. In my essence, I was like, there's no way that this doesn't work exactly like everything else works, right? You create the conditions that your body needs to do what it does, and all it does is heal.
Hmm.
That's all it does. You get a
If you
cut.
if you if you let it.
Well, yeah, to the level that you allow it, right? Based off the conditions that you put it in. But like you get a cut, you don't got to do anything for it to start healing.
Yeah.
It's instant.
Yeah.
So why would anything else be different? It's not. It's not at all. But healing is uncomfortable. Healing hurts. If it didn't, then we would be living without confidence. We wouldn't understand what it is that we should and shouldn't do in order to not make our body have to do that again. And so I kind of lost my train of thought here, but
You're just
yeah.
talking about like the food and concussions and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, there's the concussion coming back on me. So the thing happens in 2019, and I'm going through hell. I can't sleep. Right. My nervous system's stuck in sympathetic. I just can't. I couldn't sleep for more than 2 or 3 hours for two years.
wow.
It was hell. I mean, it was really bad. And it led to my retirement. But what came out of it was, okay, what is it that I need to do in the state that I'm in to make it better? And it was really hard because I I couldn't lift. I couldn't run. I couldn't barely do anything. If I exerted myself in any sort of training or cardiovascular way, I would have at least a day, probably 2 days, where I'm completely down and out, like in a dark room.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking, I need to exercise, but how do I do this? What can I do? And moreover, how can I start feeling better? Because I have a headache all the time. Baseline, it's like a 3 or a 4, and at least once or twice a day, it goes up to a 9.
Oh,
And I got ringing in the ears 24 hours a day. I still got that. And various other really debilitating symptoms, right? And then I started thinking, symptoms are just communication. This is my body letting me know that it's healing, and it sucks. So when I figured that out, all of the painkillers, ibuprofen, Advil,
oh,
caffeine, alcohol, all of it done.
nice.
Because all of these things have rebound headache effects. So I'm like, you know what? And all of these things had to keep getting a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more in order to just get through a day, because I was in so much pain. I was struggling. And I was like, I at least want to know what these signals are based off of like a baseline without any of this other stuff involved. And that was where it really started. And then I found techniques, ways that I could feel better. It was yoga type breathing stuff. I got heavy deep into that. I got a friend who's like a yogi from college, and we started Zooming, once a week, and he was teaching me all these things. And various things, taking hot Epsom salt baths. I was taking
Oh,
at least one a day.
I do that all the time.
The best.
Yes.
There's like one thing that like people could do that is completely innocuous. You're not going to get addicted to it. There's not going to be anything negative resulting from it whatsoever, and it is the most powerful biology changing, mood changing things that you can do. Is a hot Epsom salt bath. And I go down there and I get like submerged as far as I can, and I breathe so deep for like, I'll be in there for like 15, 20 minutes just breathing. And you can hear your breath when your ears are under the water, even better. And that was when I first started being able to sleep.
Can I say something real quick?
What's that?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I wish I had it in front of me. I don't want to leave the camera, everybody, but in the other room in my house, here, I don't work for Amazon, so it's not an Amazon thing. I have a 19-pound bag of Epsom salt in the other room. Get it on Amazon. It's incredibly cheap. I get a bag every month sent to me. Put it in a bathtub. Put about 4 or 5 cups of Epsom salt in the bathtub. Put it on hot water and just soak the magnesium entering your body and the breathing that goes with it. You will walk out of the bath and feel better.
Absolutely.
Feel better.
What's wrong with you?
You'll feel better. Now it's not going to be like last forever. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing those habits. That's another one of those things. And I love that God, I can't believe you mentioned the Epsom salt bath. I love easy. I think one of the problems that we have when we talk about wellness in society is everybody's coming up with something freaking complex.
Too complex. Yep.
So complex. You got to do this step and this step and this. Come on, man. You're just trying to make a buck. It's not an Epsom salt bath. The only thing it costs is the Epsom salt, which is not even expensive.
Yeah, it's like $10.
An Epsom salt bath.
I think I have the exact same bag.
Yeah. Learning how to breathe.
Yep.
Learning how to move. Eating stuff that grows and has a face. Having a upbeat attitude. I remember when we first met, one of the things that always struck me, first of all, you were really intense. You were really intense. I remember that. Well, and I was intense, so we were two intense guys.
No doubt about it.
I don't know if that was good or bad, but it is what it is. Kind of Good most of the time, not all the time. One of the things that I always admired and respected about you is I always felt that, well, not I feel that you truly, like, there's no fake, you
Thank
know, no fake, man. Like, you're telling stuff. First of all, the story you're telling is, of course, incredible, and it's people are gonna love it. It's so real because it's not all fluff. Like, this was great, and this was great, and this was great, and man, like, this is the stuff that we go through.
you.
Like, and that's real life. That's what people need to understand. One of the things that you mentioned, and I'm going to be interested to see how you explain this. You talked about, like, being curious.
Hmm.
What do you mean by that?
I think we're all born very curious, just about the world,
Mhm.
right? Trying to figure out how things work, wanting to see new things, learn new things, um, wanting to learn others' experiences and glean wisdom from what other people have found themselves, I think is so important. And I think that, hate to say it, Craig, I'm out of the game now, so I can, but that in a lot of ways, school beats out of the kids.
Oh,
And I really have a problem with that. I do. Now, I'm not going to say I hate school. I love school. I loved my job. I taught for 15 years and I coached, and I had a great experience as a student. But I think for many, many people, a huge factor in what I'll call teenage angst
God.
is the fact that they're forced. They're not even coerced. They're forced to go to some building early in the morning with an unnatural amount of peers that they would never be around that many in any other circumstance in any sort of natural way ever. And they're forced to be indoors for the better part of 8 hours, 5 days per week. Totally unnatural. And I really truly believe that every human, every person has a gift and is an has an incredible talent within them. Every single one. So many people, for whatever reason, right, are forced into that system, aren't able to realize that talent or their gift or wherever it is that they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. That, like, that's really what's under the teenage angst or the anxiety. I mean, God, like, Craig, I mean, you're not much older than me, but
Oh,
when we went to
a
school,
lot older.
well, I'm 42, so
I'm
um,
58.
yeah, well, but those 16 years, not that much changed,
Yeah.
right? Because I graduated in 2000. There was a handful of people that had cell phones, and they were the Nokia block things,
Oh, man.
right? And so it was pretty much the same, right? How you grew up, how I grew up.
Yep.
So today, it's so much different, and these kids have such, I don't even know how to describe it, but they just call it anxiety, but it's way more than
Yeah.
anxiety. But
Right.
it's rampant. It's everywhere. And to be honest with you, growing up, like, I knew what it was to be anxious. And usually, to me, what anxious meant was like I'm like really eager to go do something, and that was it. And
Right.
now it's like these children are riddled panic attacks and social anxieties and this and that, and it's like, man, like that heavy weight that they're carrying. It's
Well, here, think of it this way.
brutal.
This is perfect. And listen, so everybody who's watching, I have 36 years of teaching. So I've been in education as a teacher, coach, mentor, 36 years, 35 years, something like that. So I can't keep, but 30 something years. And what I will tell you, the stuff that Mike is saying is critical. And I'll say this, even though I still teach, but I really believe this. we just talked about the slices of pizza and the four components.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody to think about this from a standpoint of, I don't even want to say just education and students, but let's just say we mentioned that for a second. If you think about what is happening in education, older students, okay, here we go. High school students start at about 7:30 in the morning for most of the area around where we live.
Mm-hmm.
So going to bed late, so they're not getting enough rest.
There's one slice.
Okay, check minus. One slice is gone. Now they're in school for 6 hours and 45 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. And if they don't have a physical education class, which many of them don't, the only movement they're really getting is walking between periods. The slice number 2, the movement,
Goodbye.
gone. Okay. We have the rest, which is gone. We have the movement that's gone. Okay, let's think about the food. I can't speak to every school. I don't know every school, but I know in general that to think that most schools are providing the best quality foods all the time, slim, because it's hard to do that financial wise. But
Mm-hmm.
many students are eating the school foods. They're not bringing snacks. They're not bringing their own food. They're not eating enough.
And food at home, Craig. Mom and dad both work. Everybody's stressed out.
Yep.
They're eating fast food. They're getting DoorDash. It's a mess. Go to the grocery store. It's a damn mess.
So the third slice is gone. And now we have the last one, which is the attitude. I'll tell everybody a quick thing. So when I was in high school,
Yep.
I had 37 straight days of detention. Everybody get that? 37 straight days of detention. That's how much I could not stand just sitting in school. Think about that.
Yep.
37. And that, I'm not saying that's what's happening now, because I don't think it is, but that affected my attitude so much.
Mm-hmm.
So much, because I didn't want to be in that situation. You know, I didn't want to be in that situation where I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And that is what's happening for so many teenagers.
Well, and you were tired.
Yep.
And this is a place of education, right? Well, what could be more important to educate the youth on than how to actually nourish your body properly? Right? It kind of happens if you have a really good health teacher, you might get lucky and get that, but it ain't that. That's a very small percentage of the population that's getting that type of education in school. Very small.
Oh my God, so true.
So there you go. So of course your attitude is going to be terrible, and your emotional state and well-being is going to be terrible because the other 3 slices are gone.
You are so right. You're spot on.
I mean, why do you think kids are pissed off? Come on.
Now, I mean, I think the question is how do we fix that?
Well, I can tell you what I did. And this certainly isn't for everyone. And again, life circumstances.
Yep.
Right? It's like my hand was almost forced. Not forced, okay, because any of these steps, any of these risks that I've taken in my life were choices, okay, but to me they were no-brainers. So the whole concussion thing, I'm feeling like absolute dog shit for a long time, to the point where I went on sabbatical to try to figure something out to feel better so that I could get back in the classroom, because this is my financial well-being. This is how I'm supporting my kids. I got two young kids at the time.
Yep.
I just bought a nice house outside of Doylestown. Shit. And so and it's fitting. It was the night of the Super Bowl, the Tom Brady Super Bowl. So 2020, okay, Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And my son the healthiest, most robust, incredible child I've ever been around. Okay, 3 years old, and had hardly ever even been sick. So, game's about to start, and I made a big plate of nachos with, cut up fresh tomatoes and peppers and, the whole deal. Beans. And just about to sit down, eat these nachos and watch this game. And I'm excited for the game. Dad, my belly hurts. My belly really hurts. Oh, you probably got to, go take a poop, bud. You want me to come with you? Sure. He always wants to come. Okay. Go up with him. And he's on the tour. My belly really hurts, Dad. It really hurts. And, I'm getting like antsy because like the game's starting, you know. Dad, it just really, and I'm like, hey, Gina, can you come up and sit with him? He's trying to poop. He can't poop and his, belly hurts. I don't know. Never had any issues ever up until that point. Well, fast forward about 24 hours and he was throwing up nothing because he had nothing in his stomach after the first couple throw-ups, like every 15 minutes for like 24 hours. And he was gaunt and like sucked out and skinny, like looked like sickly, and his belly's killing him and he's crying. He can't sleep. I mean, I stayed up all night. Well, we took shifts. Me and my wife stayed all night with him and thinking, okay, stomach bug or something, whatever. We'll get through it. And he's like, my belly hurts so bad, Dad, and I'm like, let me feel it. And I feel the one side and it's, soft and normal and fine. And I feel the other side and it feels like there's a Tootsie Roll in there. And it's like a drum. I'm like, whoa, something's up. We got to call the doctor. Call the doctor. Okay, it could be appendicitis. Does he have a fever? No. Okay, well, you can wait it out or you could take him to urgent care if you wanted to. And I'm like, okay. And it goes on for like another couple hours and he's still writhing in pain. And I'm like, no, something's up. Something's up. We're going to the emergency room. So pack everybody up, drop our daughter off at the in-laws, go to Doylestown Hospital. We get emergency after, hours and hours of testing. They can't find anything. They can't figure it out. The kid's writhing in pain. My wife's like a wreck. We've been up for like 2 straight days. Emergency ambulance ride down to Shap. Emergency surgery, had a bowel obstruction. Was basically going to die if he didn't get surgery. And then like 2 weeks in Shap, brutal. And then like 6 months after that, like brutal recovery. Thankfully, thank God, he made it, and because he was so healthy and strong and robust. And it was at that point, like during the experience in Shap, where literally like we're hanging on every moment, and like every couple hours, somebody would be in like, okay, if X, Y, or Z doesn't happen within the next hour, like we're going to have to go back in and do surgery again or something, and whatever. We're like, holy shit, this is the most challenging thing that a parent could go through short of, the worst outcome. And it was at that point, or there was a point during that experience where I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is absolutely what I need, what I needed to push me to make the decision to retire, to get my health right. Because if I have CTE, which is what it is, right? It's a suspected CTE because they can't do that until you're dead. The average lifespan is like 59 or something like that. So I'm thinking if I got 15 more years or 20 whatever more years, I'm going to live these freaking years and I'm living them. Mm-hmm. And what's the worst that could happen? We lose the house, big deal. It's just a house. And I live outside Doylestown. I'll make money off the house. Great. And I got an incredible wife, special talent, who this whole time, raising kids and being pregnant and all this, has been maintaining her company that she started way back, like before we even met, like
Wow.
15 years prior. I was like, I believe in her. And this is just what the right thing to do is right now for me. So I retired. I helped my wife sort of legitimize the business end of the business, and spent my days, still do spend my days with my kids, educating my children, spending time with them as much as possible, training myself and strengthening my body and my spirit and my mind, and still on a continuing quest to find that lifestyle that is the one that is best for me. And it is by far and away, Craig, the most important and best decision I've ever made. We still live in Buckingham. As a matter of fact, we're doing way better financially than we ever have
That's great.
since we joined forces. And I work very part-time. Like, I can't do the screen time thing. I can't do in the office for more than like 2 hours. Honestly, more than an hour at a time. I got to go do something, and then I can come
Yep.
back and go back to some. But yeah, we've over doubled everything, well over doubled everything. And so that's really the message that I think was most important to me. Like, you sent questions and said, think about these questions, going into things. And one of them was like, what message do you want to relay to other people, with this platform? And I think the most important message is one. So having the 4 slices of pizza, so that you get by doing that, you get in tune with your body. And when you get in tune with your body, then you start getting in tune with your body-mind connection. And when you start getting in tune with that and controlling the mind, you start getting in tune with your emotional state and your spirit. And once you're in tune, it's like the downloads come from, the ether. And it's like you just kind of know what to do. But I think I know that we all have this. I think that it's heavily suppressed in many people, probably most. I don't know. And I think that truthfully, everybody deep down knows it, but most people are too scared to really, truly follow that inner voice.
Well, when it comes to taking on challenges, like if you think about your own life, many of the things that have happened in your life have been forced on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wouldn't have broken your leg, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
So what ends up happening to many people is because of your personality, your drive, certain things happened in your life that I'm not going to say they forced you to make change, but they definitely encourage change.
Mm-hmm.
For many people, they don't live like that. So the easiest path is the path of least resistance.
Right.
Right? It just is. It's like if things are just going, they're going, they're going, they're going. Think about when people, that are overweight, let's say, and they have a heart attack. And the doctor says you got to lose weight. And then the person has an epiphany. Man, I got to get going. I got to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's because, in general, many people are so reactive to things instead of proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy. The easiest thing is to keep doing it. So if you have a donut today and you don't feel bad, you have that happy donut. You wake up tomorrow, what do you have? A happy donut.
Another donut. Why not?
Exactly. And before you know it, you're having those happy donuts because your body has now gotten used to having the happy donut.
And you've created a habit now.
Exactly. You have that habit of, okay, well, now I'm having that donut. I don't need that salad. I want that donut. Or I'm just sitting down watching Netflix. Man, I love that movie on Netflix. Why do I got to I don't want to go to the gym. Why do I got to go for a walk? And I know that sounds like a very negative way to look at it, but it's not meant to. It's really just more about the habits and patterns that we develop. If you think about your own story that you've told, you have now, before I say this, you have always been the person who would try to build those habits. So when something didn't work, you broke your leg, you got a concussion, you were able to have the grit to be able to make change.
Hmm.
Not everybody has that. That's not easy. Like your background as an athlete, as a coach, as a teacher helped you to be able to do that. And I do believe that most people do have the ability to make change. I really do believe that. But I think for some it is just much harder than it is for others.
Yeah. Again, though, right? So life is just a series of choices,
Mhm.
right? And we have one thing that we can control. That's it. Our choices. We can control nothing else in the world. So, since that's the case, right, no matter where you are, you could be 90 years old, bedridden, or you could be, you know, an adolescent that still thinks they're invincible, or anything in between, right? It's a matter of making the choices that you know are the ones that you should be making. That might, that looks different for everybody. Like, so, like, okay, let me ask you this: who's working harder? The powerlifting champion who's squats 800, benches 500, and deadlifts 700. Is he working hard if he goes in and does a couple of sets of 225? Well, yeah, he's lifting 225 pounds and he's doing it a bunch of times. I mean, that's hard work, man, right?
Yep.
Okay. So now you got an 85-year-old who just struggles to walk around and has a walker, but they have a little railing in their house or at the rehab facility that they go to or something like that. And they can walk along that railing, but it's very difficult to keep balance, right? To move the stride forward. And I'm talking like down true training that gets to the emotional level
Hmm.
because eventually the physical is out the window, right?
Yep.
Physical fatigue, you reach a point and it just is what it is.
Yep.
So now it's like, okay, so are you emotionally capable of keep going again, doing it again, or going further? And so that 85-year-old who's just walking at, 2 miles per hour or something, maybe with the assistance of a railing, is working harder and making better choices than the power lifter who's doing, 3 sets of 10 at 225 on the deadlift.
I agree.
Right. So it's all relative to who you are and your circumstances. So like whatever your habits are and whatever your life is, the choice to say, okay, I am going to change this one thing. I'm going to not choose this or I'm going to choose that. Whatever. And it might be minuscule. And to me or you, you're like, we'd be like, or on the surface, right? It would seem meaningless and nothing, like a nothing. However, to that person who is in that circumstance, that is a big change. And you know this as well as anybody. That's how you start habits. And
Yes.
then one small change consistently leads to the next change, which consistently then leads to the next one. And all of a sudden, it starts to snowball on itself. And then you're moving so much that your body's now craving good food. So it's not even like you have to go do a bunch of research and read a bunch of books and go through all this to prepare all this different food that you don't like. It's like it just starts happening. So what I'm saying is that the choice is there for all of us. And we all have that ability. It doesn't matter where you are, if you're bedridden or if you're a pro athlete, right? It's just the choice.
I love that.
Everybody has it.
I love that. I mean, that's a great message because I really do believe that. And I always say that same thing. I do believe that I'll say to students all the time, everything is about choices. I actually did that today with the class where I was talking to them about how much effort they're putting in.
Hmm.
And I'm like, think about the choices you're making. You know, you could sit and do nothing and be on your phone, or you could be active and moving. That's the choice that you make. And if you say, well, it's the end of the school year, I'm almost good, that's the choice that you're making.
Right.
That's the choice. Now, again, it's not always easy, but that's how it is. Let me ask you, do you have a closing? Is there a closing message you want to give to people?
It just do not make don't make the choices in your life based off fear. And if you're consuming, at least for me, I am to the point where consuming any information that has a message of fear behind it, whether overt or covertly, is out the window. Right? There's no place for it because where I'm living is right here and now. Right? And when you're in tune and you can hear these signals, right? You're getting these signals that you kind of just you feel that nudge to do that thing, but you're too scared to do it for what because how I would be crazy to give up a retirement, an old school Peasers retirement, right? All I needed was 20 more years.
Yeah.
Okay, all I needed was 20 more years. It was easy, man. I got more curriculum than you could ever want, right? I can run a classroom the back of my hand. How could I leave that and jump into the world of man? Like we might fail, and we might
Mhm.
have to lose our house, right? That's a big risk, man. If you're thinking about all the things that could go wrong and making choices based out of fear, guess where I'd be? I'd probably still be in school. Okay, fine, right? And I'd be drudging through, just trying to get through each week because I haven't even healed my brain yet.
Yep.
So I can barely make it through a day, and I'm probably on medications,
I love that, man. I
right?
love that. I love that message of. I mean, I mean that's hard for people, but I love that message of not making choices based off of fear.
Yeah,
I
do
love that. That's a great closing kind of thought. That's powerful. I like it.
yeah, like literally, like let the wind take you where you know it's supposed to go, and trust it.
I love
Trust
it.
it, even though you don't know what the outcome's going to be, right? You, for me, okay, I can only speak for me. I knew that it was the right thing to do, and because I knew that, guess what? I knew I was going to make it. I knew I was going to make it right, and
I
so
love
like
it.
I can do that. Everybody can do that. And you don't want to look back and regret and say like, man, I really wish I would have did that thing, but I just never did. Maybe, it's because I felt, what if you never started your podcast?
We wouldn't even
Because
be
that
here.
takes balls. You're putting yourself out there. You are, right?
Yeah.
You might have peers or you might have kids that might say, oh, yeah, that guy, yeah, oh, yeah, right?
I do. I
Of
do
course
have
you
that.
do. Who
I do.
cares?
Oh, I don't care. Oh, I don't care.
Because you knew that could be a vehicle for what it is that you need to do. And I know you, and I've always known that you've known what you need to do is to inspire people, to help guide young people, to be an example, a living example for people, not just young people, to be honest with you, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing, and so you just do it unapologetically, without fear.
I
Doesn't
would
mean doesn't mean things aren't going to go wrong.
Yeah. I
Doesn't
would
mean
say
you're not going to, I hate to say fail, right? Because fail's a tough word. Absolutely.
I think it's unrealistic to not be scared. But I do believe that it is important that if you really want something to happen, you have to give it a try.
Hmm.
Now, we don't want to go too deep because we've been on for a while, but I do think that if you're curious, which is something you talked about, if you're curious, if you're willing to put yourself out there in a way that is making a positive difference for you and others, I believe you should do it. And that's what the people that are listening to you, listening to your story, they are going to come away incredibly inspired because you've had so many challenges in your life that you've had to overcome and been able to do it and do it well, which is a testament to you as a person.
Well, I thank you for saying that.
True.
And
Oh, yeah.
are actually, because that's where growth happens. So like, we could be upset at the circumstances that we're in, and some people are in worse than others, and that's just the reality.
Yep.
Right? But like flip it. Like, man, if you're in like super difficult circumstances, guess what? Now you have the opportunity to rise up out of it and become such an incredibly strong person,
I
right?
agree.
And that's it. And courage, right, is not the absence of fear, Craig. Courage is doing what you know to be right, despite having fear.
That's like the thing of uh I'm trying to see if I can remember the quote. It's something along the lines of doing what's right is when nobody's looking.
Mm-hmm.
Like that thing.
Yeah,
Um yeah, I mean, I think the stuff you said is very powerful. I mean, I really appreciated having you on, man. It was, first of all, it was great to reconnect. That's the
absolutely.
first thing. Great to reconnect. I love your story. I knew that having you on was going to be incredibly inspiring because even though it's been a while, I always thought to myself, man, he's a tough dude, man. He's a fighter. And I think that's something that I have. Well, I don't think I have so much respect for somebody like that. Somebody who's dealt with challenges, doesn't complain, doesn't moan, but just comes out stronger from doing that. And I really have a great deal of respect for you for doing that.
Appreciate it. And, you know, I'm nothing special. All of us have this ability. We do. And
I
so
would.
I'm very thankful, Craig, that you had me on, that I could spread that message. And I hope that, if one person gets something out of this, then that's a victory. So
I think.
awesome,
I think.
man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
I think it's gonna be a lot more than that. Everybody, first of all, thank you for checking out Cutting the Crap with Shap. Um, if you'd like to be on the podcast, please get in touch with me through my website, my email, through YouTube. I'd love to have you on. And again, I'll take anybody because it's really important for you to share your voice. We all have a voice that we want to share. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but sharing that voice is critical. Having Mike on, he shared so many messages about being curious, about being a family man and taking care of his family, about the struggles that he's had, about his concussion. But the most important thing is looking at him now. Think about the success that he's had through all of those struggles, which show it's a testament to him as a man. And that is so important in today's society. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Mike and I appreciate you. We are
Absolutely.
so grateful that you're here. At the end of every podcast, I always have a closing message. And just listening to Mike tonight, I have a very easy message for you. Okay? Make the right choice. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Mike, thank you. You're a great man. Everybody, talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Shap. You're the man.